Thanks for inviting me to have a yarn with you today, Claire. You just asked a moment ago before we hit the record button, what is my background? And I am just another human being in the world, blessed to be in this physical experience, I would say. I just want to give you the short version of my story because there is relevance to it, but the juicier stuff comes when we get to share about how we can come together in common union and talk about our relating as human beings and how we operate and function. And so essentially the fast track version is I was born in far north Queensland. And from a young age, I had the privilege, my parents were global travelers, globetrotters, and I got to share that experience with them, visiting many different places around the world growing up. And it was once I finally left high school in far north Queensland, I wanted to go and pursue my career and passion of sports at that time and play soccer in the United States. And I went over to the US and I studied there for 4 years, pursuing this drive that I had within me to make it as an athlete, professional athlete. And I felt that was my path at that stage in life. And I've always been really enthusiastic and driven and focused. And so I pursued it, and I ended up getting some injuries, which played a huge role in my shift of awareness and my shift in my internal navigational system, how I, walk this life that I find myself in now. And there are some key elements in that space where, as a young athlete, I was generally always playing in team sports, and I found myself loving the environment of camaraderie and connection and this level of working together, for a higher cause, for a higher purpose. And that played out in my younger years in the sporting arena. And I had a big shift in my life when I could no longer play sports. It was a devastating period in my life. I went under my third knee reconstruction, and it really shook up my world in so many ways. And really made me kind of forcefully start to look within what's going on and how am I creating this for my reality. And at that time in my life, I was just a pretty standard young fella in the world. I was going out, drinking, partying, trying to get all the girls, and just trying to live a wild life, trying to experience, trying to understand the full range of experience that was possible. So I was, I would say from my perspective now, addicted to a lot of things, this stimulus, this pleasure, that all of these things. And a key element of the story here is a lot of that was documented. And this is a huge part of my own healing journey of what's led me to the position I'm in now in creating these beautiful environments and experiences and events and these opportunities for people to connect. Was that I was documented through a filmmaking process, caught in a very negative light of doing all of these wild, crazy things as a young boy. And it wasn't until I, went on this journey and started waking up and realizing how much, not only physically, biologically, I had been injured from these surgeries and from all this intense sports, but on a deeper emotional level, how much I was hurting inside and not fully expressing and holding myself back, limiting myself. And it's been, a huge seasons over the last 8 years of my life of really undoing a lot of the conditioning and programming and revealing a lot of the hurt and trauma from an early age in my life, and then working on processes to bring that into the awareness and look at how I can shift that and alchemize it, heal it, and be present with it. And so that the decisions, the conscious decisions that I choose to make in my life now are to bring people together in these environments so that we can support one another to go through this huge transformation. And that's something I'm inspired by what you're doing and what you've done for a long time in creating these podcasts and these conversations with real people, about humanity in this time, about real people doing real things and what we can do as humans to shift through this, this portal that we're stepping into. It's quite on a macro level. When we really observe what's going on in the world right now, it's fascinating. to see, so many of these kind of systems that are in place slowly deconstructing. And it's a process. Sometimes I often am so caught up in the instant gratification of the social media world, and growing up as a youngling exposed to all of these things, like I kind of want it now and I want it to happen. And so on that journey of awakening, it was like things have to change right now, without realizing that it is happening very quickly. When we look at the time span of planet Earth and humanity on planet Earth, of billions of years, and that this, even just the last few years or couple hundred years, that in the scheme of the macro picture of our planet is such a rapid rate of things changing. And so I guess the part of my background that's relevant to this conversation around community, around humanity, around understanding the way that we function as human beings, it really begins with the journey of self-discovery. And at that point, we all have this beautiful fantasy of having, going through this journey of self-mastery, but we can't begin to master the self without first discovering the self. And oftentimes what I've found in working with many different people, and most importantly from my own experience, the journey of self-discovering, these existential questions of human life is like, who am I? What am I here to do? And in the past, I thought I was, amazing soccer player, young stud, very attached to this identity that I had created and built up over this timeline in my life. And then started to realize, wow, my identity is shifting here. I'm going through a big change there. And then, what are the tools and what are the practices for me to integrate into my daily life as a practice that help me to really understand these deeper layers of what's actually going on inside of me? Because what I learned growing up was I often am learning about the world and myself from my external environment, from my teachers and my parents and traveling and these experiences. Yet it's not that often that I was conditioned or programmed or taught as a youngling to really start to explore and find the answers of what's going on within myself. And so for me, as I've grown older, it's been really humbling, because I was, very much caught up in my ego, very egocentric, driven and wildly out there. And then to like come into these practices and go on these wild experiences and meditations and doing Vipassanas and doing the practices and realizing the deeper inner work, what there's so much within me that is, tumultuous and kind of wild and out there, that there's a lot of work that is necessary to be done on that process of understanding that simple question of like, who am I, and it's a really exciting journey to be on. And I just wanted to praise, yourself for opening up these conversations and sharing them. And that's something that's been really valuable. And understanding myself is receiving others, listening to other people's experience and perspective of life and what they're going through and how they perceive their nature of their reality, and what has been a challenge and what has been a success and what has been a breakthrough and a transformation. And a big part of, I feel, one of my gifts to listen and receive, and it's also my training to fully just receive others and where they're at without absorbing it for myself, but just to accept them and appreciate them and love them. And it's often what I've realized within me is that void in my life is what drives the value. So that missing piece, that missing link is something that I really value in my life now, because it was missing in my life as a youngling. And so, to have the opportunity to receive others and what they're going through, because from the feedback that I get from those in the community up here and what's happening worldwide right now, there's a lot of people going through a lot of change, a lot of rebirth, a lot of, old systems deconstructing and folding away, and opportunity for new growth. I've had the privilege of studying a lot of permaculture and syntropic agroforestry and just observing nature. I've been blessed to grown up in a beautiful, dense rainforest region of the world. And there's a crazy statistic that I just wanted to share quickly. In Australia, it's a huge landmass. If there were got any international listeners listening into this right now, Just to give perspective, Australia is a huge landmass size, and roughly pre timber logging days and rainforest deforestation, roughly around 5% was tropical rainforest in northeast Queensland. So 5%, the whole landmass of Australia was rainforest. Now what's left of that is around all the national parks that have been preserved to keep these pristine rainforests ancient and old is about 0.2%. Now you ask, why is that relevant? Well, it seems that, again, we're seeing over the last few hundred years this decline in life. The example there is, the rainforest here in far north Queensland, which is home to hundreds of species of wildlife, beautiful animals and different tree species, and a diversity of abundance of life. And it's slowly declined over those years. And what we can identify is the role that it has and what it can teach us around how we function as mammals or as humans in this world, because we've all, realizing in that process of who am I, and I had this very ego-driven identified individual of this is all about me and going to take it to the next level and be a superstar and all this stuff. And it's so humbling to realize that I am just the tiniest little smidgen of a cog in a huge wheel of humanity, and which is only, again, another small wheel in a huge wheel of globe of Earth, including all the animals and all the different systems that exist. And amongst, again, then that's only a small part of this. If we spiral out of that fractal even further, this massive galactic universe that we find ourselves in. And so there's many different parts to this macro level awareness. And then, to shift our perspective back to the micro and ask the deeper, meaningful questions, like not just who am I, but how am I contributing to the greater whole? And they're all really nice questions to reflect on and ponder. And it's been part of my journey that has brought me to this point. And I just wanted to share that I am, absolutely still in kindergarten of understanding those questions. And I'm asking them every single day because there's so many challenges, again, that are arising with our times right now. And it depends on the perspective of the individual and how we see those challenges. Are they an opportunity for growth, or am I choosing to respond as a victim, that I have no power and no control and I don't have an influence on anything? And then if that is the case, it's kind of like what the question then is, well, where did that stem from and come from in my life? Or how has that been a repeat pattern? Because what I've discovered in understanding the nature of reality, the nature of the universe, understanding these fundamental laws, that ultimately everything is always changing as a start, but it seems to happen in these seasons and cycles and patterns. And so then to identify, okay, what is my pattern and what is my cycle? Where am I at? And it's kind of like, if I've got this vision moving forward to create community and cohesion and unity, and I need a roadmap, right? I need to know first, before where I'm going, I need to know where I am right now, so that I can make the journey to navigate to where I want to go. And so it's like getting real with myself as to what are my limitations, what am I not good at, and what am I good at, and what do I have to contribute, and what can I give back and be of service.
Oh my
so
goodness.
That's kind of
there's so much. There's just so much in that. And thank you so much, Shay. That was just absolutely beautiful. We are all we are a part of this absolutely gorgeous, flourishing system that is the world. And I personally believe that when we go out into nature, that is when I'm the most happiest. And that's it. It's just everything is, so connected. And to rebuild, like I didn't know that you had the permaculture background and that kind of thing as well. So that's definitely sounds like a skill, on your list and on your journey to help rebuild this new world, and through community and through knowing yourself. And we haven't asked ourselves these questions throughout life. We haven't been, as you said, we've been taught so many things and we've looked up to so many people, but we've never been taught to really question and to really ask ourselves who we are, and to really come to that place. And it's just amazing that that we're born in this time now where we did get to live in that life of, like I lived throughout the 80s sort of thing, and that was at the height of where the most craziest things, that could possibly happen were happening, and where the most plastics that could possibly be made were being made, and where, a man had an idea and basically, it was just to make money sort of thing, and who knows how he got from here to there to do it. It was sort of the more outrageous the plan. And now we've come to almost quite a still moment, really, where the world obviously has been forced to slow down all around, and it's almost that we can hear nature more now than ever before. And that we're, to come to that part, to come to that place, is we're very lucky, I think. We obviously chose to be born in this time, but we're also very blessed and lucky to know both sides of the picture, and to be able to work from it at the time that we have chosen. Obviously it's sort of, I think, as we were saying before this interview, Shay, for me, it definitely, putting together humanity, I couldn't not do it. It was something, my skills were needed in the world, and there was nothing that was going to stop me from doing it. And as soon as you start to get into that flow, everything just happens. And so there was just another point that I wanted to make as well, that something that I didn't quite understand as a child was that just by me being born, I am already blessed. I already have every need. Every life will look after me. Earth will look after me. And you think if you keep, in the park, you had to strive to be safe, and just that knowing that we are safe, and especially during these times, is just so important.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing. That's really beautiful.
Yeah, no, thank you.
That's super inspiring. Something that stood out for me in what you shared there was the deep listening. You mentioned listening to nature and listening to our inner voice, our purpose, our inner calling, and listening to understand what our gifts are. And that is a huge, huge process, because it's like we could ask all the questions that we want, but if we don't take the time to actually receive the messages that have been downloaded in that moment, and then take action on them and give to the world what we should do in service and servitude, then it's all meaningless. But then when we integrate that, and I really love this perspective of looking at the things from a holistic point of view, that if we can integrate all of these different parts, because just as I heard from you, you have many gifts and talents, and every human being is uniquely individual and got their own dharma, their own purpose. And so when we can start to activate that within each other and light up our these little beaming lights and follow our hearts and do what we really care about, then we are on the right path. We are contributing in a profound way. And that for me is also part of what I've been inspired to move towards in creating cohesion in community settings. Is now that we're in the Aquarian age, it's no longer about the individual, which it was in the Piscean age, about the one individual kind of leader as we looked up to, but it's now about the community coming together. How do we, work in harmony to a greater good, or to the greater purpose, or what it is our intention as a group to move forward? And I feel it's relevant to explore, you know, some of the challenges that might arise in these settings. And I've had the beautiful privilege from traveling all around different parts of the world, experiencing different cultures, having, you know, traveled through Asia and visiting ashrams and meditation centers and permaculture communities, as well as going over to Vanuatu and being part of an initiation of an intentional community, and now landing back in Australia, kind of like finding my way again in this beautiful region that I grew up in. And, you know, making those connecting threads, weaving this web from, you know, people who I've known all my life, who have supported me and stood by my side, and also like accepting and integrating all community members, you know, people who also feel called to really comprehend and understand the social element of being a human being, you know, that we're created and wired, you know, neurochemically to have bonds and to have connections and to have support. That's just how we've survived over so many thousands of years in these tribes and these communities. And so, you know, we've gone on this journey to develop this online community, which has been fantastic because it's really started to light up different people from all over the world, and we have a chance to bond and connect and ultimately drop into sharing in circle based on feeling-based relating. So it's been a key element, and I'm sharing most of this from my own experience, but I really want to just highlight the importance that actually this is not about me, and there has been so many pioneers that have done so much before me that I really praise. A lot of the mentors that have been in my life, for Joanne as an example, and Imani and Sovereign, and so many people who have been the way showers, and I've kind of just had the privilege of like slotting in there and contributing as another part in the wheel in the greater cosmic community. And so, you know, that's one thing that I really feel is relevant, is that there is so much wisdom in what people have been practicing for many years. And even if you look back through indigenous cultures, you know, the ways and practices that they still use to this day that serve the community as a whole. And one of those practices that I feel is important is to identify that as a human being, these greater, on a macro level, these greater systems that are deconstructing and crumbling beneath our feet is very relevant for us to create these new systems. So in that transitional process, that in between, it's kind of like when you look at somatics, and somatics is simply if you have a plate and you put like sand or grains of salt, and then underneath you have a speaker and you play a sound frequency, it generates this beautiful pattern. And then you turn up the sound frequency and kind of vibrates at another level, and the pattern shifts, and then after some time another pattern forms. And the key point here is that we have pattern A and pattern B at the two different sound frequencies, but in between, right, the key point here is that in between pattern A and pattern B, there is chaos. There's no pattern. That is still a process journey for it to connect those 2 points. And so if we understand that we're going through a huge transition on a macro level as a humanity on planet Earth right now, that we're transitioning from one system pattern to another, it's like, what are the tools that we need to let go of that no longer serve us, or the limiting beliefs, or the unresolved emotional trauma, or whatever it may be that be holding us back? And what is it that we want to cultivate and foster and really ground into this physical human experience and bring to the world in community that's going to serve ultimately the greater good of others and the planet and also ourselves? And then how do we practice that on a daily basis so that we create, you know, more connection, deeper intimacy, more love, more, you know, unity? And when we look at the words community, we've got like common, communal, connection, and the way I break it down is common and unity, you know, coming together in common unity. So it's like, what is the purpose of community is coming together for? To unify, step into the unified field. And what we've got to look at is our own deep programming and conditioning from an early age, any unresolved. If there's still present for us, and we're coming together in a circle with our community members, and there's something that it hasn't quite, isn't vibing, let's say, at the same frequency as the other community members, because there's something there that is, really being triggered, or there's an emotional charge, there's something that's unresolved. It's like coming together, taking ownership by speaking from the I in this circle, and speaking into the middle, not at anyone in particular, but just sharing how I feel in this moment right now, and allowing the expression of the energy of the words to transmute the deeper, denser feelings in the body, and to be witnessed by others in that circle can have a profound effect in letting go, or coming into awareness as to what it is that's, still present in the body, in the minds, in the hearts of my being, and then to be witnessed by others who can share their loving appreciation and support just by simply listening and receiving. And that becomes a great opportunity for that to be resolved, to be healed, and to be brought back home into connection and wholeness. And so what we've found is that there's this profound journey of sharing in circle, in community. And so we've taken that into an online format, and it's been a really nice place for people to land with the chaos that's going on in the world, and just drop into a really nice, safe and sacred space where they can really start to open up and reveal all that's going on within them. And again, I speak from my own experiences, having been on this journey as a young Australian white male. I've had extreme privilege in my life, yet I've also had many challenges that, that I actually had a lot of resistance to sharing what's actually going on for me. Part of my programming is to hold it all together, have it all worked out, be perfect, know all the answers, be the guy that everyone looks up to, and do all the right things, and then to unlearn all of that and to relearn what's really deep in my heart, and share that in a way that I can just fully trust that by letting it go and expressing what needs to be expressed, it's like I can just take a deep breath and just observe that tension of everything that I was holding on to so tightly, keeping close to my heart without revealing, was actually taking more energy than it was in my nervous system, my physiology, than it was to just relax and let it all go. And I feel that's been a huge process in the surrendering of what's to come, because it's kind of like if the house is crumbling down and we're in the process of creating a new house, but we haven't got any vision or plans for a new house right now, then it's going to be scary, because the unknown and the uncertainty of where we're going to live, how we're going to, support our lives and our families, and what roof are we going to live under. Well, that's what I feel, if we had a vision, let's say, or a plan, or you've got this, AutoCAD design system, and whilst that house is crumbling and coming to the ground, you've already got a vision for a new house to live under, then there's this sense of security and safety. And even though there's no new house yet, we have no idea what the new future looks like, the new paradigm, this new existence of new earth that we're going to find ourselves in, that is actually already here. But the systems on a larger macro level, as they come to a close, then the question is, what kind of world do we want to live in?
Absolutely. So just what you were saying about the it's a world, it's obviously you've got members from all around the world. How do people find you? How do people find Brave New Life? Kind of has the message stick getting out there, so to speak?
Yeah, that's a really great question, Claire. Thanks for asking. And to rewind the clock a little bit back, it was in 2018 when the film that I was in as a young teenage boy was released on Netflix to the world. And it was a huge production that cast me in a very negative light, let's say. And that was a huge journey for me to really be propelled into the vortex of self-responsibility and accountability, because I had to really, take ownership of my actions and explore what it takes to repent and go through forgiveness and really drop back into my heart and reveal that I am, perfectly imperfect as a human being. And I learned a lot of skill sets on that journey that helped me to heal my heart and explore the deeper wounds and go through the dark night of the soul, let's say, which I feel as a collective human species right now, we're kind of experiencing that radical scale, that polarity of, chaos with everything that's happening in the world. And so from there, I was so inspired to experience the power of videos productions. And so I went on this journey to create this online video platform called Earth Heroes TV. And anyone can have a look. There's some great health and well-being videos on there. There's amazing scientists and experts and people that are sharing their gifts with the world through the video format. And then from that point, I connected with a soul brother, Sovereign, and Imani, who were working with the New Earth Project, helping many people like Sasha Stone, Dr. Christian Northrup, and all of these, beautiful powerhouses and beaming energies of light for the world right now, and supporting this shift that we're going through. And what we noticed, there was a huge demand in the world globally, internationally, for people to have a space to land and practice the tools that were inevitable for our transformation, that we're going to support people to go through their own journey and come out the other side. And so Brave New Life was initiated because, again, as things start to crumble and we go from pattern A shifts, in that space in between, there's this certain vibration and frequency that is chaotic. And we have to look at the resonance. And I love the Hawkins scale of consciousness, which quantifies the emotional vibration of certain emotions to a level of hertz. And if we see fear is all the way down at 100 hertz, love, as you spoke to earlier, is around 500 hertz. And then we also have, enlightenment and joy and beyond. But if we look at the vibration of the energy that we're putting out into the world, courage is only 150 hertz. It's only vibrating just above fear. And so that what I'm trying to suggest is that, as a collective level, our moral and ethical standards right now for humanity are radically low. And we're vibrating at a very low frequency. Yet we have the power to recognize that it's within me to shift that vibration, to play a role in the transformation of raising my own energy. And so we wanted to inspire people and empower them to embark on their brave new life, shift their vibration to a higher level, step into courage, be brave enough to embark on a new journey of a new life that you want to create, that it lights up your world, that it sets your gifts free. And so this whole community came out of it. There's like 4,000 people strong. We meet a couple times a week, and the primary focus of the meetup is feeling-based relating, so that everyone has an opportunity to share. It's not about any one person or facilitation or anyone selling anything. It's just a really nice place for people to land and express and share what's going on. And so we haven't done a huge amount of any paid marketing ad campaign, something like that. It's been purely holding that vibration, holding that frequency, and just allowing that to ripple out. And those who feel attracted to join and be a part of it and connect will just naturally resonate with that and come together. And we've shared a lot of kind of video talks and conversations like we're having right now. And if people feel aligned and they're resonating with what we're sharing and what we're saying, that they too will just feel called to be a part and walk this journey together. And that's what we're finding, is that we, the people, have the power. And what it takes for us to come together, letting go of all of our own baggage and all of our own stuff, and come together to work in communion, work together to create unity and harmony. We realize that the possibilities are limitless. In fact, it's like super exciting for me to explore the potentiality of what is possible when people serve and live in a way that is giving towards something higher than themselves, something greater than even the community and beyond. And it's like, wow, what else is really possible?
I love it. I love it. And a blueprint before. Do you discuss in these groups? Obviously, it's about starting with yourself. But do you kind of, where do you see humanity going, Shay? What's your hope for a new world? What's your hope for the future?
That's a great question. Yeah, I love that. And a key thing I really want to place significance on and emphasize is that these communities that are, you know, really starting to be initiated, and these groups of people that are coming together for a common cause, really has nothing to do with me and everything to do with the people. Again, that what I've come to realize is that understanding the way systems have been designed and the way that they function, the most powerful technology that we have available to us as humankind right now is the human being. You know, we have tried so hard for many years to create all this technology to replicate and understand and, you know, basically impersonate what capacity humans have. And then when we start to realize how magnificently powerful and abundant we are, it's truly incredible. You know, where are we actually putting our time and our energy? What are we contributing towards? Even, you know, what do we spend our money and our resources on? So when we start to recognize that significance of our potential to create, because oftentimes these systems that are existing are just frameworks, and we are kind of sometimes mostly voluntarily with our will choosing to operate that system. But then it's like, wow, what happens if we create a new system that serves us in a higher way, that enables people to step into their gifts more and share them freely? Then what does that look like when people start to plug into that matrix of a reality? And how would that manifest in the world that we find ourselves in? And so I guess to explore further what hope we have for humanity right now is really quite significant. And I can't at this stage really see too far into the future, although I have had a lot of these impulses in my life and these really great examples that I could share stories on when I've had this experience of something happening, and then without putting any more energy to it, without even like taking any action towards it, later on, months later, that it just manifests in my life and it becomes real. And so it's like these visions for the future. And at this point right now, it seems humanity, there's so much hope for humanity. Although things may seem wild and uncertain and unclear and, you know, beyond what we really wish for our fellow man and women right now, the key in understanding somatics, you know, pattern A and pattern B is going to be something totally different to pattern A, but equally as magnificent and beautiful in its harmony, in its syntropy, in its kind of symmetry of replication of the most elegant pattern that we could ever find, that exists in nature and also exists within us. And so for me, just surrendering more and more and letting go of striving to be and do and create something, but just allowing and trusting and really believing in the new world, the new earth, this new sanctuary that we can find and live and operate and function in and be a part of, is, you know, it is already here, in fact. And it's up to every single one of us to consciously choose to decide what and where are we going to contribute and give our energy. Are we going to, you know, spend 5 days a week, 9 to 5, putting our energy into these old systems? Or are we going to be brave enough to step into our own hero's journey, shift our perspective, and place all our energy from a lovingly kind, open, generous heart into a system that is going to serve our passions, is going to serve our purpose and serve our community and give back to those we love the most. And so it's really exciting time to be alive right now. I'm so blessed. And, you know, we've got this amazing technology where we can record this conversation and like send it out to millions of people all at once and get this beautiful message out there. And actually anyone can do this. That's the magnificent part, is that everyone has the capacity, if they're willing and they choose to do something like this and share their voice, share their gifts, open up their hearts. It's like, wow, what else is possible? Be brave. Yes.
I was just thinking when you were saying that, Shay, about the fact that, you know, we are already here in the new life. I am already more happier now than I've ever been before, and I am just still right at the very beginning of my learning of my new journey on how I'm going to navigate this life. But I just had a thought that I don't suppose anybody has ever come from a life where they live it, you know, giving and live it free and just so open and in the flow of every possibility, and just have this absolutely, you know, amazing open heart, and then think, no, I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go back to not having an open heart, and to, it just doesn't really work that way, does it? It's sort of the more that you realize when you're in the flow that things make so much sense and that your heart is so much happier. I just used to remember waking up every morning before I went to work, you know, my 9-to-5 job, and every morning I knew that something wasn't right. I knew that there could be a different way of doing it. And now I'm putting in the same energy, and once again, I'm still at the very start of the journey, but I'm putting in the same energy, going back to my roots, because, you know, I did have my own magazine for so many years, but it was in the old world. It was still in the old systems. It was still in the old way of doing things. So it never quite worked. And just knowing that I can put that energy that I was putting for somebody else and for a purpose that's doing things in front of my eyes that I knew that I didn't agree with. I was actively putting in all of my energy into things that I knew I didn't agree with at the end of the day, coming home and trying to do my own projects to counteract it's just ridiculous. And now I put that energy into myself and well, not myself, I put it into the community, the greater good, and I just can't wait to see where it goes. Yeah.
So inspiring, Claire, and so amazing to see you, really just walk that path. And I love it so much. I love hearing that. And something that I feel to share based on what you opened up around, in terms of, it's not often that we see people, go through this heart opening process and then, go back to the old paradigm or the old ways. Something that I've learned in my life is to recognize the systems in nature, let's say, and understand the functions of how the universe works and how nature operates in these seasons and cycles. Mm-hmm. Like we've got the seasons of, the 4 seasons: winter, summer, autumn, spring, all the seasons. And then
cyclic.
After that cycle is finished, we've got to remember that it comes back around. And then although it's going to be a little bit different, it's going to come back in almost not a circle, but a spiral. We can see this spiral dynamic that unravels. And so with that awareness of how that nature functions, recognizing we are very much a part of nature and we are nature as well, that we have these patterns too. And so if I have had limiting beliefs in my past, or poor eating habits, or, poor lifestyle choices, that it's likely that this pattern will appear again in my life. Yet I'm going to be more prepared with better skill sets, with, more deeper, intimate processes, with more awareness, so that when it comes back into my life, I can choose to respond with loving, intention to shift out of it, and I'll be able to navigate through it with more ease and more grace. But just to recognize that it's likely, whatever, pattern it is, and these can be really positive and life affirming patterns that continue to come back around, but to recognize with awareness, key element, the awareness of what I'm experiencing in my life and where I'm functioning, because we know now in the brain that we've got the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind is operating 95% of the time. This is what, I can stand on the shoulder of giants at this point, with the likes of Dr. Bruce Lipton and Joe Dispenza, who have done the research, they've done the studies, and they recognize that 95% of the times we are operating out of the subconscious mind, which means that we're not consciously choosing our actions in the world, and we're just operating in default patterns and behaviors based upon our imprinting period as a youngling. And so when we recognize that and we identify that in our lives, it's likely we will have these returns, to these old ways of being, but seeing that as another beautiful opportunity to transform, shift, to continue doing the work, to go even deeper, to find more love, more compassion, to find more appreciation for this gift of life that we find ourselves in, transmute it, alchemize it, shift it, move beyond it, and then continue to create this new earth paradigm where we live with our hearts, we open our chest, we connect with others, and continue to move forward and evolve into a new way of being.
And raise our vibration,
Yes.
Our vibration. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you too, Claire. I really appreciate you reaching out and taking the time and stepping into this brave new life and creating these opportunities for people to receive and listen and share, and getting that out to the world. One last thing that I feel to just close on, on the piece of conscious media and what you're creating, this really beautiful open sharing. Given what's going on in the world right now, there is tremendous amount of censorship that's happening. And there is certainly more need. There's a huge demand for people like you, to step up and create really inspiring and empowering content for people to uplift humanity, to raise their vibration, to walk a new life on this earth that we find ourselves in. So I just want to honor you so much for doing what you're doing in the world, and all of those people who are listening right now. Hope to see you also embark on this new life that you find yourselves in. And I really look forward to chatting again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I look forward to speaking with you soon. Thank you so much, Shay.